plays a different sport. Tough one from Simons. He got fouled.
He's like a carbon copy of Damian Lillard. Look at his play. The footwork. That's the same play over Paul George, where he waved him goodbye.
Not too long ago, I made a video about the C's being a dangerous lower seed, but with how trade acquisition who they got when clearing Jrue Holiday's contract, Anfernee Simons is playing, the Boston Celtics may be better than we think. Drawing comparisons to Damian Lillard, and rightfully so given he learned under him, Simons' potential is coming to life early in the preseason. Based off how Anfernee's exposing defenders in isolations with crafty dribble combos leading to step-backs possession after the next, it's looking like he could provide top-notch scoring support at the starting shooting guard position in the middle of the bald Mamba Derek White at the 1 and Juice Jaylen Brown at the 3. With Tatum expected to miss most of the 25-26 campaign, but recently informing the Celtics that he miraculously plans to play this season despite tearing his Achilles in May, Simons' extra scoring punch could turn out to be deadly once Jayson gets back. So even though I said the Celtics were going to be a lower seed, with how scarily top-heavy their attacks looking in terms of the amount of shot creation they'll have at 100% with Simons, Boston may end up being their typically high-placed selves in the East, as they're still resembling somewhat of the juggernaut they've been for the past decade in the Tatum and Brown era. Through 2 preseason outings for Simons, he's averaged 19.5 points, 2.5 dimes, and 2 boards in 25.3 minutes per game on an extremely efficient 48-50-100 shooting split. That level of efficiency doesn't just hint at a hot streak, it signals fit, and in Boston's case, a potentially seamless one. What's making Anfernee Simons' early Celtics tenure so intriguing is how naturally his game folds into Joe Mazzulla's offensive ecosystem. Boston's attack is built around spacing, quick reads, and ball movement, with an emphasis on creating multiple advantages in a single possession. Under Mazzulla, the Celtics live on the principle of drive and kick basketball, bend the defense, make the extra pass, punish over help. And Simons is tailor-made for that kind of environment. His handle is surgical, capable of collapsing defenses with minimal movement, and his footwork creates this kind of half-step separation that breaks down elite on-ball defenders. But what makes him truly lethal in this system is his ability to operate both on and off the ball. He can initiate from the top of the key, then seamlessly slide into a catch-and-shoot role when Brown or White take over a possession. His deep range, comfortably pulling up from 27 feet, stretches the defense to uncomfortable zones, forcing opposing guards to fight over screens higher than usual, which opens up the middle of the floor for cutters and rollers. In a system that's predicated on spacing geometry, Simons doesn't just fit, he enhances it. He gives the Celtics a level of perimeter dynamism that keeps defenses guessing, and the early returns are already showing how much easier the floor looks for everyone else when he's in rhythm. What's flying under the radar is how much Simons improves Boston's tempo and unpredictability. For years, the Celtics have operated at a measured, almost methodical pace, deliberate half-court possessions where Tatum or Brown read mismatches and attack late in the clock. It's worked, but it's also made them predictable in stretches. Simons flips that dynamic completely. This man thrives in chaos, early clock pull-ups, quick-hitting dribble combos, and bursty downhill drives that collapse defenses before they can set. That's a strategic shift. His speed and confidence with the ball force the Celtics to play faster, to capitalize on broken plays, and to find rhythm before opponents get into their coverages. That transition from slow to fast, from methodical to spontaneous, could be the missing link in keeping Boston's offense from stagnating, especially in playoff series where defense load up on set actions. And the beauty of it is that Simons doesn't need to dominate the ball to change the game's tempo. Even when he's spotting up, the threat of his shot speeds up defensive reactions, closeouts become harder, rotations become longer, and suddenly, Boston's ball movement has more bite. In a conference full of fast-paced, energetic teams like Indiana, Orlando, and New York, Simons' tempo could be the key to keeping Boston a step ahead offensively. Defensively, the immediate narrative might be that Simons is the weak link, but in Boston, that label doesn't stick as easily. The Celtics' defensive infrastructure is elite, arguably the best in basketball when healthy, and that's exactly the kind of ecosystem that hides small flaws and amplifies effort. Simons doesn't need to be Marcus Smart, he just needs to buy into the system. Playing alongside defenders like Derek White, Jaylen Brown, and eventually Jayson Tatum means Simons will be surrounded by length, communication, and elite rotation IQ. That allows him to play more contained defense, focusing on positioning and anticipation rather than constant isolation battles. Boston's scheme switches often and scrambles well, which means Simons' lateral quickness and willingness to contest will be enough to stay above water. And while he wasn't known for defense in Portland, part of that was circumstantial. The Blazers often lacked rim protection and team structure, forcing guards to overcompensate. But in Boston, those responsibilities are balanced, predictable, and well-drilled. The combination of structure, accountability, and elite help defenders around him could elevate Simons from being considered a defensive liability to being a solid, reliable piece of a championship-caliber unit. And if he can even be average defensively, his offensive value skyrockets in importance because the Celtics can easily hide a minor weakness when the payoff is elite-level scoring versatility. What's especially encouraging for Boston fans is that Simons brings back an element the team hasn't truly had since Kyrie Irving, a true shotmaker, someone who can create clean looks out of nothing. Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum are elite scorers, but both tend to lean on physicality and rhythm over deception. Their isolation game is about power and angles, not necessarily unpredictability. Simons changes that equation. His dribble creativity, hesitation game, and pull-up range give Boston a different dimension of offensive danger, one built on rhythm manipulation and deceptive control. In late-game situations, where defenses switch everything and possessions stall, having a player like Anfernee who can dance with the ball, generate separation, and knock down contested jumpers is invaluable. It's the difference between grinding out wins and closing them with confidence. His presence ensures that Boston isn't forced into predictable sets in crunch time. Instead, they can space the floor, let Simons go to work, and trust that his shot-making will draw extra attention. It's the kind of versatility that gives Mazzulla the flexibility to mix playstyles, structured one moment, spontaneous the next. Simons' presence also provides crucial insurance for Boston in light of Jayson Tatum's Achilles recovery. Even if Tatum returns sooner than expected, managing his minutes and load will be essential, and that's where Simons becomes indispensable. During stretches without Tatum on the floor, Simons can function as a co-engine of the offense with Brown, giving Boston a balanced inside-out dynamic. He's capable of running pick and rolls and creating pull-ups against drop. Instead of relying solely on Brown or White to generate looks, the Celtics have another proven bucket getter who can maintain offensive continuity. And when Tatum does play, Simons' scoring gravity will make his life easier. Defenders can't load up on Tatum the same way when there's another elite perimeter creator spacing the floor. This means Tatum can pick his spots, focus more on efficiency and leadership, and most importantly, avoid re-aggravating injury by carrying too much of the offensive load. Beyond the tactical layer, Simons also injects something intangible into this veteran-heavy group: energy, swagger, and hunger. Boston's core has been together for nearly a decade, which is both a blessing and a potential burden. Familiarity breeds chemistry, but it can also breed complacency. Simons, still just 26 and entering his prime, arrives with something to prove. After spending years in Portland as an underrated bright spot on struggling teams, he finally has the stage and supporting cast to show his full range. That kind of motivation's infectious. It raises the internal competition in practices, keeps the locker room fresh, and reignites that edge that championship teams need. It's the type of personality shift that can subtly reshape a team's identity without disrupting its foundation. When players see a newcomer thriving and earning the trust of veterans, it reminds everyone that no role is set in stone, and that kind of edge keeps contenders sharp. If this level of play continues into the regular season, the conversation around the Celtics could change drastically from a wounded contender trying to stay afloat to a retooled powerhouse with newfound offensive depth. A healthy lineup featuring White, Simons, Brown, Tatum, and Pritchard would give Boston 5 legitimate scorers on the floor at all times, each capable of creating their own shot and bending the defense in unique ways. The spacing would be elite, the rotations interchangeable, and the scoring balance nearly impossible to game plan against. Even with Tatum out, that foursome of Simons, Brown, White, and Pritchard could still operate like a top-tier offense. In other words, the Celtics aren't just surviving this transition, they're evolving. What began as a cap-clearing move to offload Jrue Holiday's contract might end up as one of the most quietly transformative trades in franchise history. Anfernee Simons doesn't just make Boston better on paper, he gives them something they've been missing for years: a new offensive identity, a burst of unpredictability, plus a reminder that championship windows can reopen faster than anyone expects.